Hello.
Amit.
Hi, Leonardo. Hi, Emmanuel. And hi for everyone who actually attends this amazing panel. Actually, I am so excited about this panel. I'd like to get touch with these amazing speakers. I'd like to learn from them. So my name is Ahmed Hussein. I actually lead the scientist in Vodafone Egypt. And this panel actually talks about data literacy and what is the basic role of data leaders from that perspective. Uh, Basically, we would like to conclude from this panel what are the steps and what are the strategies that data leaders can apply for data literacy to build a successful organization and data driven in the digital transformation journey. So I welcome my speakers, Leonardo uh, Coelho, if I'm saying it right.
Yes.
He's an ATL expert, consultant, and software engineer in Hitachi. I would like to introduce yourself, please.
Okay. So as you said, I'm a software engineer at Hitachi. I also act as an ETL expert consultant for analytic partners. So my background is much more related with ETL, data integration. So build pipelines that are able to parse and treat multiple types of data that usually are heterogeneous and at raw level can be hard to put everything together. So we typically build pipelines so we can treat the data in order to build a common place for them to be analyzed and visualized.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. And my second speaker, Emmanuel Uzanga, and he's the head of data management Africa Region Standard Bank. And please, Emmanuel, if you can introduce yourself.
Thank you, Amit. I hope you can hear me well.
Perfectly.
Yeah, I'm Emmanuel Osanga. I look after the data strategy for Standard Bank within the Africa regions. I'm a data practitioner. I've been practicing this maybe for almost 19 years, and I've worked across the continent. So I'm glad to be here and looking forward to this conversation.
Yes, perfect. Okay. Thank you, guys, and let me introduce this panel. Actually, what the points we are going to address. From my perspective, and I think you agree with me that the point of being as a data-driven corporation is not like something that we can deny. It's undeniable. So the journey from just converting some numbers in sheets or tables into a narrative and a story to can the business can actually depends on and takes into consideration when he takes strategy or actions. So it's as I said, it's something that we can actually get rid of. So basically, we need the journey from collecting data and content and extracting the insights and fundamental information and visualize it into business owners. It's called this pipeline called data literacy. So it's a journey, and let me begin with how do you define, guys, data literacy? Let we begin with Emmanuel. How you perceive the word and how you define it.
Yeah, very interesting question, but I'll answer it in a layman's term so that people can maybe relate with. As you know, I work for a bank, Standard Bank, and many years before now, the only thing that people knew in terms of interaction with the bank was to go to the branch, the closest branch next to you. And the only way you could actually communicate to that client as a banker was to understand their language, either Portuguese or English. That would be the way you would communicate with a client. Now, with the digital estates that we currently have, everything has gone digital. The truth is, the reality is what flows through that digital estate is data. And therefore, for us to be able to understand our clients and serve them appropriately, we need to understand this language called data, which flows through the digital estates that we have. So the way I would define literacy would just be the language that flows through that digital, understanding that language that flows through that digital estate. You would be you would be literate, just like you'd be literate in English or Portuguese. You need to be literate in what flows through how our clients interact with us for you to be able to serve them appropriately. So I would really try and create that kind of synergy between the language that you speak to a client. Now, the only language that the client speaks to us is through their devices, which generates data. And for you to be able to understand that language, obviously, you need to be literate. So that's how I would really define, in a layman's term, what literacy, data literacy is.
Perfect. Okay, it's a very nice definition, actually, how we define it as a language between different participants. And I'm going for Leonardo. From your perspective, how you define the word or the expression data literacy?
So I actually agree with Emmanuel. I think it's key to understand the language of data to be actually data literate. And so it's a lot about be able to read and communicate data in context, but also be able to analyze and utilize that data for actual decision making. And this, of course, includes the understanding of the data sources, but also like the analytical methods and techniques that can be applied to extract the potential value from data. Like I like to make this joke, like data alone are just storage costs, nothing more. You just extract value from data when you actually apply some ETL, machine learning algorithm, data analysis technique, and so on. So it's important to understand data, and also important to understand what you should be doing with data.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. And let me ask you, Leonardo, actually, if you define data literacy process as a process of pillars, what are the basic pillars that you actually define data literacy from this perspective?
Mhm. So in terms of data literacy, if we are thinking about three main pillars to it, I would say the first one is probably data literacy skills that basically translate into human capital that consists in hiring and training. Like in Portuguese, we have an idiom that says we can't make omelets without eggs. So, and this is pretty obvious, but a data literate organization obviously requires data literate employees. So in that regard, a company can do two things. So they can hire data specialists, or they can invest on the current staff to develop data skills inside the organization. And usually they should be doing the two things at the same time. The second pillar would be around data-driven decision making, data decentralization, and data resources. When I say data decentralization, is more about the individuals inside the organization to be able to have access to the necessary data for decision making. And data resources is more about ensuring that this data generates insights that are captured and presented in a way that actually supports data-driven. So data decentralization is more about having access to data, while data resources tells if that data is actually is able to produce something meaningful. And the last pillar is around data dispersion or skill dispersion. Like you can be able to produce something meaningful but with data. But inside our organization is important that those skills are widespread throughout the organization. In a data literate organization, usually most departments are able to actually make data decisions by themselves, not just the data specialist department. So these are the three main things I see on data literacy.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. If you have anything to add, Emmanuel?
No, I think he's covered it well, and I really like your last point is what I call democratizing data and pushing it to the end consumer. And we've seen organization battle with this. You have data scientists, you create data scientists who generate all these insights, but nobody understands those insights in the organization. So it will just be a waste of investment. So I like the way you've tied the three critical pillars. And none of this, and there's an African proverb that you can't put a pot in like one stone. It has to be three stones. So all these need to work together for you to actually be able to say you're data literate. Before, you can't just take one, say maybe have special skills like the data scientist, and then miss out access to that information or the democratization, which you've described as your last point there. I think the three need to work together for you to be able to say we are a data literate organization.
Yeah. From this point, I would like to share with you guys two problems actually when I go for this culture change in any organization. First of all, top management and management overall should somehow believe in to be a data-driven organization. And the importance of data literacy pipeline as a whole, it will be somehow, as you said, Emmanuel, will be a cornerstone in its decision. So basically, I am facing actually when I join to any organization two basic problems. The first, that I need to build this belief that you should, guys, in digital transformation, go for data-driven decisions, and you should be in somehow agnostic to any subjective opinions or to believe in data. This is one struggle, and the other struggle, if they guys actually believe in data, they mostly go for descriptive analytics more than predictive and customer-centric perspective. So actually, as a data leader and for your organization, how you tackle these problems, Emmanuel?
I think it's twofold. Anything that is change is definitely going to be resisted because we are comfortable with what we currently have. You don't want to disrupt that. So in any organization, when you create something new, and we know that this data is not new, but it's really come to the fold in the era that we live in now. So for you to be able to create this change and drive this change, you kind of need a multi-pronged approach. That's something that we've done. One is you need to get your executives to buy into this idea. You need to show what value they're going to extract out of it. So you really need executive support as one key thing. And then once you have the executive support, you can then drive this holistic change or transformation in your organization. One of the things that we've done and talking about our execs, you need to have a one-on-one with them, like coaching. Make sure that they understand this language, because data as a language, as a common language is an organization. It's something that you teach. You teach your execs, make sure you coach them appropriately. And then once they are there, once they understand this subject, they will then be able to drive it in the entire organization. The other thing that you do is you can create some specific short courses or trainings, just awareness trainings, which you make mandatory across the organization. We've successfully done that, and we're talking 20,000 employees, making sure that the common, the basic knowledge is understood by the employees. So it's really creating a holistic culture which starts from both the top and the bottom, and you hope that you meet somewhere in the middle where this now becomes a common language, like we described in the organization. So for me, that's how I would solve the issue of change. Approach it in two ways: top down and bottom up, and hopefully you can then get to a level where everyone understands this subject. The other point I will make is this is not a push. I know that we like to push changes into people. It frustrates them because they don't understand what you're talking about. It's a pull effect. If you can create that pull factor in some of these terminologies to your execs, like I said, one-on-ones with them. Don't try and embarrass your exec in an executive meeting or boardrooms. Pull them aside, empower them, and ask them to speak on your behalf. Creating multiple voices in the organization helps in actually driving this culture of data literacy in the organization. Yeah, so those would be my quick hints that I would give you. Yes.
Yeah, and for you, Leonardo.
So what Emmanuel said is basically organizations, if they want to be data literate, they need to have a data-driven culture. Otherwise, it's impossible. So they really need to understand what is the value of data literacy, and basically, without data literacy, organizations won't be able to effectively harnessing data opportunities. And what are data opportunities? Basically, when you make data-driven decisions, those decisions are based on facts rather than gut feelings. And I would prefer much more my organization do decisions based on facts rather than gut feelings. And I guess that this is the major things that drives a data-driven culture. And of course, this always imply that you have a staff, that your employees have a data-driven mentality. They need to be able to understand what data is relevant for their business, able to be, question the right questions, ask the right questions to data, interpret data, like create visualizations that actually make sense, not just visualizations, have storytell skills, like the ability to communicate to help a decision maker take actions. And I think that's the right path moving forward.
Yeah, perfect. From you guys, actually, I got that it's a change journey, and I'm asking about this is very costly. Actually, the investment in that field needs a strong belief and maturity in believing in data and data value from this project. So it's a large investments actually. Uh, let me get back to you, Emmanuel, in this from your journey. Actually, what is the basic challenges that actually face you in the data literacy process?
I think it's the common change challenge that you'd experience in any organization. One is there will be people who will be skeptical about what you're talking about, but you need to keep at it, keep repeating. You have to repeat yourself as many times as you can until they get it. So there are those who will be very reluctant to cut across. I think the other piece is being an organization that is 150 years in existence. You have legacy stuff that you carry. To move away from those legacy decision making to these new ways of making decision, you're actually going to battle with that change. And so the one challenge that I would really point out is the overall organization culture. Organizations have specific cultures, and some of these new changes that you create actually requires a shift in the entire organization culture. Number two is you have lots of leaders who have built empires within organizations. Sometimes it's a struggle to they would feel that you're trying to break those empires. They will tell you that we've done this for so many years. Who are you to now bring these new ways of doing stuff? But I think it's more really to solve that problem. You need to ensure that you continually educate them and simplify. I think the other piece that we struggle with is the complexity. Depending on your level, the level of complexity of your organization. If you have data dispersed across the organization, to pull it together takes quite a lot of a lot of effort, because most of the divisions or departments have their own specific data set that they hold on to, because people say information or knowledge is power. They feel that the more they have control of, the more powerful they are. So to take it away from them and say, let's democratize this and use it across the organization, it becomes a big task to manage that that knowledge, that mind shift from this is an asset for the entire organization, not for a specific business unit or business leader. We need to make sure that we use it and make it available where decisions need to be made in the front office. But that shift from those silos is the other point that I would raise. So it's the silo mentality, and then just dealing with the overall organizational culture would be my two key challenges that I've faced as within my organization, and from my experience, what I've seen with other organizations.
Yeah, perfect. And the same question for you, Leonardo. From your experience, what is the basic challenges that you actually feel from the literacy process?
So I understand when Emmanuel speaks about the fear of change, but I guess it's also a lot about like a data gap in decision making. I think almost all business leaders agrees that data is important in decision making, although they are still not relying on data to actually make decisions. The problem here is for them to shift into data-driven decisions, they will need to invest in what we have talked about. They will need to invest on the three pillars. They will need to hire and train data professionals. They will need to have like data centralization inside the organization. So the organization should be able to access as most relevant information, and the word relevant here is important. They should have access to the most relevant information as they can, and also they should have skill dispersion. So almost everybody in the organization should be able to make those types of decisions, not just small group of people or just a specific department. It should have like a data-driven culture. And with these things, like data technologies go hand in hand with this. Things like business intelligence, advanced analytics, visualizations, all of these things have positive effects in corporate data-driven decision making. And even when we speak today about huge amounts of data with big data, IoT sensors, edge devices, and all these kind of things, in fact, these types of data technologies can unlock the value of these huge streams of data, enabling everybody in the organizations to make decisions better and faster. Nevertheless, I mean, again, the three pillars, we need to be realistic here. The only way that the organization will be able to make this kind of good decisions, data-driven decisions based on facts, is by investing on the three pillars. They need a workforce that can use data technologies in their favor. And I think the key here thing is to develop and spread data skills throughout the organization. And literally, this is the only way to overcome challenges of data literacy.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Back to you, Emmanuel. I like to and somehow go for a hypothetical situation. If a CEO of a group of companies comes to you and we work very traditional, we don't have any data platform to work on, and I like to embrace the data literacy in the organization, and you are the consultant to building it. What is your approach for enabling data literacy for that organization? What are the steps you will follow?
Oh, that's a big question, Amit.
I
but
know.
I think it's a number of things that you need to do. One is quite a number. So there are a number of things that we need to do. But my view is that number one is do not try and boil the ocean. Start small. Look for the quick wins. I would look at the organization and ask myself what would give value immediately to create this change. create something that would excite the organization. Do not try and solve the big problem, because it's a journey. I must say, it's not a sprint. It's not something that you like a matchstick that you ignite once and then everything starts burning. You have to keep blowing, giving it the appropriate oxygen for it to actually be able to catch the entire organization. So one is I would look for some quick wins. What are the quick wins that would create the excitement in the organization? Number two, I would then start to look at the critical foundations that is required. I would look at the skills, like we've said. What kind of skills do we need as an organization to be able to become data literate? Skills, specialized skills, and also the skills for the entire organization. And then I would also make sure that we have some form of campaign, and this has worked very well for us. Create some campaign with some excitement, make it exciting. And these would be campaigns, roadshows, conferences, gamification, just to create that appetite in the organization.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I would make sure that as the leadership of that organization have a forum where they actually talk about data, a roundtable discussion. It helps, whether you call them guilds or governance committees. You need that, where a place where you can ensure that the entire organization meets to talk about this key subject of data. Beyond that, I would then look at really looking at the infrastructure, what I would call the data architecture of the organization, and begin to build that to be able to support all these initiatives that we are looking for. Above all that, the most important thing that you need to have is you need to really answer the question, how will this data strategy or culture or transformation support the business aspirations? It has to be linked to the business aspirations. When you talk to business leaders and you tell them that this is going to unlock value, which is aligned to your business strategy, it's much easier. You convince them quicker than trying to create some hypothetical kind of illusion that yes, we need to create this capability without linking it to the business aspiration. So it has to be linked to the business aspiration. What value is this going to add to our client, our shareholders, or our different stakeholders? If you answer that question upfront, whatever approach you take will work, in my experience.
Perfect. Okay. I'll go for you, Leonardo, for the same question.
Okay, so I like the last thing that Emmanuel said. So the data and the techniques and the things we will be doing with data must link with business aspirations. So I initially, to be honest with you, I would be way more focused on long-term rather than quick wins, because I think with data it's hard to have quick wins. So the first thing I think we always need to know, the most important thing is ask what is the question inside the organization. What do they want to do with data? So we must ensure that everybody in the organization has a clear and focused question they want to answer. And just by then we are able to actually think about the question, surveying the available data, and then we are equipped to allocate resources to actually solve the right business challenges. Because if we don't know what we are working on, we will never accomplish something that truly benefits us. And the other thing is also, it's also about long-term, but having a vision, a purpose. For instance, as let's say a data leader, the inside the organization, that person needs to be able to always answer what his organization will benefit from data, from data-driven decision making, and from data strategies, right? And after you knowing what you want to accomplish and what is your vision in the future, you can start working on it. But I think you need always to keep two things in mind. So the first one is like merging science with business. There shouldn't be silos, and Emmanuel talked about silos. Like there shouldn't be like a silo to think about where we want to go with the business side, and another silo thinking about what we want to do with data. This kind of things should be together. Data people and business people should collaborate all the time together to reach a common goal. And also separate. I think that one is important. Separate hype technologies from technologies that actually have potential, because in the data spectrum, like I would say every day, but maybe even every hour is popping up new shiny technology that seems really great. But the data leaders must be able to carefully judge
Distinguish,
all these things, because usually at the present, even the value of these new technologies aren't clear. But data leaders needs to almost have a gut feeling to know if this shiny, this pretty thing actually solves something
would
useful
help or
or
not.
not.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Okay. It's very good. Okay. If I may add that question, a quick question before we open the questions. Um, the link between business KPIs in general and the availability of raw data. If you go for transformation from raw data to a realistic KPIs, how do you prefer to go from KPIs and backwards to identify the relevant data for this KPI? Or you go from raw data and you capitalize and define the business and appropriate KPIs?
Hmm.
Emmanuel,
Can I
if you
can I
can
start?
help
Oh,
me.
okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Lenero,
You
you
can
can
start.
go. You can go. You can start.
You can
Yeah,
go ahead, Emmanuel.
basically, I would say a thing that I've been saying here, and I always say so. I think it's pretty obvious, because I always advocate for asking the right questions. So don't even think about the data unless you have a clear vision of what you actually want to accomplish. Otherwise, what will you do with the data if you don't know what KPIs you want to build, right? So I would always start with defining the question and then the KPIs.
Get back to okay. And for you,
Yeah.
Emmanuel?
No, I agree with Leonardo. You can't start building a house without the blueprint. You need to get the blueprint, then you can start building. So I agree with
Yeah.
Leonardo 100%. It's the only way to do it. If you want to be successful, that's what you need to do. You need to define the what, then you can start on the how. You can't start with the how.
Okay, I agree with you both guys, because actually we have some cases in our business. We see that we have reports and we have tremendous use cases, and finally we conclude after 6 months that we don't have a solid KPI that we actually measure the success of the service. So we revised all the process and get back from, as you said, guys, the right question and get back to raw data. And based on that, we delivered new sources and the new rate of refreshment for these sources based on that question. So I totally agree with you guys. Um, so I've enjoyed talking to you guys, and let us have the questions of the audience. So if you have any questions, please. Okay.
Yeah, but maybe as we
Uh,
wait
uh,
for the questions to come, I just thought maybe I'll just say that for you to actually be able to drive this enterprise-wide, you have to drive it as a program that requires specific focus with measurements. Having a temperature view of the organization at every point, maybe through some surveys. I think it's good. It's not something that is just going to happen. You need to be very deliberate if you want to become a data literate organization. You need to test, bring these interventions like train, and then you check the organization in form of some form of maturity assessment to see where you are in the journey. So it has to be a very deliberate program that you run for you to be a data literate organization. Some people think that it will just happen by itself, but you have to be very deliberate in driving it and cultivating this culture, because it's a culture. It's not something that's going to happen. Just like that.
Yeah, it's always invest on the three pillars. Like, if you want to extract value out of data and to extract value out of data literacy, it's always a long-term investment, and in short term is usually a lot of costs, right? You need to hire and train people, you need to have actually access to the data, and all of this is cost. But you need to keep in mind that if you have the right question, if you truly know what you want to do with it, in the long term, it will be profitable.
Actually, I have, if the audience have any question, please share it with me. I'll share it with the speakers.
When there are no questions, typically means two things: or the conversation was way too good and everybody understood, or nobody understood.
Or the opposite. No. From my
I
part,
hope
it's
it's the
amazing,
first
actually.
one.
And like that, I
agree
liked
with you.
your idea of always having the vision, but the short-term stuff, the quick wins, is just to buy you time as a data leader.
Yeah.
You need to always have the vision, long-term vision, but it's important for you to start to produce some value that the organization can see. I just thought I would clarify that it's definitely, you need to have a vision, a data vision as an organization.
Yeah, in real life, especially if you have a part of your company that is less data literate, you need in some way to justify that you are actually making some profit with it for them to buy your idea. But I like to sell this more in for persons that are already data literate. They know that this is profitable. So when people know, they will believe that in long term is profitable. But I know that quick wins are important for septics, right? Yeah, I truly understand.
From your opinions, guys, I monitor that actually one of the milestones for the success of increasing data literacy in the organization, and somehow to have a very good eye from technical and business perspective. So as you said, Leonardo, to define is this technology is actually works for us or not. And as you said, Emmanuel, looking for the data architecture solutions increased in this. So finding the technical guy, actually, I would like to share it. Somehow it's not that easy to find. The guy actually understands the data literacy and have this business involvement. So I'm wondering if you actually agree with me or not.
No, I agree with you. It's a difficult balance to find somebody who has a combination of both. But typically, what you would do is you need to form partnerships. I do believe collaborations is key in any organization. So the data leader or the business leader and the technology teams actually need to work very closely together. It's a difficult skill to find. The best way to solve that problem is maybe collaboration, but it's a problem that really exists. It's very rare that you find somebody who kind of has that balance of both the tech side or technical side and the business acumen. But those are skills that people acquire. Mainly, it's the business leaders going into the technical stuff to understand that, but they are very scarce resources globally. It's not just for a specific region, but globally, it's a difficult skill to find. So I agree with you, Amit.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a difficult skill to find. It's two difficult skills to find the same person, and usually, if you even find them, probably they are way too costly if an organization is small. So I think the only way to tackle this, if you aren't able to find someone that have the two traits at the same time is also always to be sure that you don't form silos in your organization. So you will have business guys, you'll have data guys, they will need to cooperate. There shouldn't be a business department or a data department. Otherwise, for sure, they will not collaborate. So yeah, it's all about collaboration to tackle this.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Another question, if I may, and I don't know if yes, we have a question here. In fact, I cannot read it because it's in Spanish, I believe, because actually I cannot read it. So if you can please translate it to English, it would be great. Okay.
Oh, and I think Ahmed just went down.
Yeah, I think we lost Ahmed there.
So I can even make the questions. Actually, it's not in Spanish; it's in Portuguese, so I can read it.
Yeah.
Basically, it says here: do you think that data leaders are prepared in terms of data literacy, and if not, how they should start?
Oh, I think we've answered probably that question already in terms of preparation and the steps that they need to take to be able to become data literate. I think we've covered that. I hope it's clear to the person, but
yeah,
this is a new trend. To be honest, most organizations are struggling with this, and it's something that we are all still learning entirely globally. So we need to keep that education, connect with the guys who have gone ahead of you. We have a phrase, hashtag copy shamelessly. Don't try and reinvent. Most of the things you're trying to do has already been done. Look for where it's been done and be able to copy. There are consultants out there who are doing this for a living. Do engage them. It's good for you to have an external perspective over and above internally building this knowledge. You need some external perspective. You need people who have gone ahead of you in the journey. Reach out to them and ensure you have access to external information as well. So it's a multi-pronged approach. It's something that we are all still doing and we need to continue to do. The most important thing for us is to collaborate. Always make sure you collaborate externally, internally. Do not try and hold knowledge to yourself. There are people there who have gone ahead of you, and you'll be able to access that knowledge very easily if you are a collaborative person.
Yeah, true. And I mean, I think he's more talking about business leaders rather than data leaders, because a true data leader must always know data literacy. Otherwise, he's not a data leader. But yeah, business leaders that want to understand data literacy will need to collaborate with people either from data if he is lacking on data skills, either from business if he is lacking business skills. And I guess that's it. Yeah, great conversation, guys. And I was the moderator in the middle of the conversation, so it was great.
Okay, I enjoyed a lot with this conversation, and thank you for your time, guys. And
Me
hope
too.
to see you soon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.